I've looked at moving because I'd like to keep more of my money too. And
where should Maher move? How many people moved out of your state, California?
Oh, I know. No,
Under Newsom?
Yeah, no. People do move. There's no doubt about that. People move in America, and you're right.
No, but they're not moving because they want a better view. They like to keep more of their money that they earn.
Yeah, that's true.
Florida's a really good case study. So when DeSantis became governor, there were 250,000 more registered Democrats in Florida when he became governor 8 years ago. Now there's 1.4 million more registered Republicans in Florida. That's all migration from COVID and re-registration from COVID, 100%. Right. So it absolutely is happening.
Bill Maher is tearing into the left for what he sees as the destruction of once reliably blue cities, arguing that Democrats abandoned everyday voters in favor of appeasing a radical fringe, leaving people feeling ignored, unsafe, broke, and angry, and that this strategy amounts to political self-sabotage that could seriously endanger the Democratic Party's future in American politics. So if you're into sharp, no-nonsense political commentary, smash the like button and let's dive right in.
The current mayor of Chicago has an approval rating of 6.6%.
Round it up, 7.
I mean, you were just the ambassador to Japan. If that was your approval rating in Japan, they would do here on live TV.
They would do it at 27.
I mean, what's going on in Chicago?
Look, we were talking about this a little earlier. I mean, you have also the mayor of New York not doing well. Obviously, other things also here in Los Angeles not doing well, the mayor here. Look, and then you got mayors like the mayor of San Francisco and other cities that are doing well. So I would say, look, there is a general rule. I had this when I was mayor. Safe streets, strong schools, stable finances. Focus on those three things and your city's going to be.
Rahm Emanuel lays out why he believes Chicago's mayor is stuck with a disastrous 6.6% approval rating, arguing the cause is simple and rooted in what voters experience every day: public safety, financial instability, and failing schools. Residents are facing rising crime, budget turmoil, and an education system that continues to fall short, while seeing little urgency or focus from City Hall to address these problems. Emanuel says leadership isn't about lofty rhetoric or ideological signaling, but about fixing what's broken right in front of people. And instead, Chicagoans feel ignored as their quality of life declines. The frustration is deeply personal. Parents worry about their children's schools, workers worry about safety during their commute, and taxpayers worry about where their money is going. In Emanuel's view, the mayor's real issue isn't messaging, but misplaced priorities, and voters are making it clear they've had enough.
5 years where people became way too permissive of the culture. They were all, which is why everything's locked up at Walgreens and CVS. And that is a disaster.
Yeah.
And our school, and I'll say this about our schools: I don't want to hear another word about the locker room. I don't want to hear another word about the bathroom. You better start focusing on the classroom. We have the worst reading scores for 8th graders in 30 years. And nobody, not a governor, not a mayor, not a president, not a secretary of education is talking about it. We're all wrapped up. Look, in 7th grade, if I known that I could have said the word they and got in the girls' bathroom, I would have done it. We literally are a superpower. We're facing off against China with 1.4 billion people, and 2/3 of our children can't read 8th grade level. So no more about the lot. Wait a second, I'm on a roll for a second.
Rahm is right, and this is where the frustration really boils over. The public school system is clearly failing, yet instead of confronting collapsing standards, poor outcomes, and classrooms in crisis, the national conversation was overtaken by debates about locker rooms and bathrooms. While parents were asking why their kids couldn't read, write, or compete, leadership focused on cultural flashpoints affecting a tiny fraction of students. Rahm's point is painfully simple. We let fringe arguments dominate the discourse while neglecting what actually matters: our children's education. Schools should be about learning, safety, and opportunity, not ideological battlegrounds. It's also impossible to ignore who led the charge in these debates, with the Democratic Party placing itself front and center, prioritizing symbolic wins over practical solutions. The result is parents feeling unheard, students left behind, and trust in leadership continuing to erode, making this not just a political failure, but a generational one.
To be fair, this is actually...
I was being fair.
No, this is a huge Democratic Party problem. If you look at Democratic cities, they are terribly run. They have incredibly high taxes. It is impossible to build, so the cost of housing... Let me finish. I give you a chance. Cost of housing is crazy in places like New York and Chicago. If you look at Democratic states, you go look at New York versus Florida, okay? Roughly the same population. The budget of New York State is twice that of Florida. What do they have? Streets paved with gold? I live in New York. I pay the highest taxes in New York. You get nothing for it. And I think that is the image people have of the...
Fareed Zachary isn't wrong, and more people are finally saying it out loud. Across the country, Democratic leadership appears to be driving once thriving cities into decline. Residents are crushed by high taxes, tangled in endless red tape, and left feeling vulnerable as public safety worsens. Small businesses are barely hanging on, middle-class families feel punished for staying, and basic city services have become slower and less reliable. When people can't afford to live where they work and don't feel safe on their own streets, they don't protest, they leave. That's why there's a steady exodus from deep blue cities to places offering something simpler: lower taxes, fewer bureaucratic obstacles, and a firmer commitment to law and order. This shift isn't just about ideology, it's about quality of life. People want cities that function, not cities that lecture them while failing to deliver the fundamentals.
Lots of taxes, lots of regulation, but nothing gets done.
Hey,
And I think
I live in LA.
Right. I think, listen, if the Democrats have to own this and realize the answer to everything is not more taxes, more regulation. People are fed up of that, and they feel that it isn't working.
The Democrats, look, as somebody who produced the best graduation growth in the country, we're proud of that. And we changed our high school.
You were a good mayor, I agree.
No, that's not the point. The point was we changed, but I'll take that. The point isn't the rules. The point is the results. And the party has gotten way too focused on what the rules are. And I do agree with you on this. We have made it impossible to function as a city or...
For far too long, Democrats have fixated on rules while paying far less attention to results, regulating everything from public discourse to how many permits it takes just to repair a roof. The bureaucracy isn't merely bloated, it's suffocating, turning everyday tasks that should take hours into ordeals lasting weeks or even months under piles of paperwork, approvals, and endless reviews. Small businesses feel this pressure most acutely, but homeowners and workers feel it too, especially when trying to renovate, expand, or build and finding themselves stuck in a system that moves at a glacial pace, with little accountability when it grinds to a halt. Rather than asking whether policies actually work, leadership keeps adding more layers, more rules, and more agencies, producing paralysis instead of progress. Cities don't feel governed, they feel trapped. People aren't asking for chaos, they're asking for competence. And when government becomes an obstacle rather than a service, frustration is inevitable.
Of this example, here obviously in LA, it took a fire and a natural disaster to make you realize, you know what, that rule's not that important. In Pennsylvania, a bridge collapsed. All of a sudden we go, oh, that environmental rule is just not that important. We got to build a bridge. It's much more important. And I think the Democratic Party should take a look at it and say, we're going to be honest, like we did in 1994 with reinventing government. Everything is on the table. Nothing is safe. And look at it and say, that's essential. Those two things get out of here. And that doesn't happen. And that's a...
Ram is right. And if the DNC wants to rebuild trust in its own cities, it needs a serious reckoning with overregulation. That starts with taking a hard look at rules that add little value and eliminating them. In places like Los Angeles, taxes are sky high, yet residents struggle to see what they're getting in return as infrastructure projects drag on, housing initiatives stall, and costs spiral out of control, all because of endless paperwork, approvals, and permit delays. Across California, major projects often sit frozen for years, not for lack of funding or vision, but because bureaucracy refuses to move. This isn't progressive governance, it's paralysis. Voters aren't looking for slogans or studies, they want visible results. If Democrats want to prove they can still run cities effectively, they must prioritize speed, efficiency, and accountability. Cut the red tape, deliver outcomes, and earn back credibility where it matters most.
That Mamdani's election will lead more financial organizations to leave New York City for Wall Street South in Florida. Tell me, I've read that term just recently, Wall Street South, Florida. This is your state. What is that?
A lot of Wall Street guys have moved to Palm Beach. It's been happening really since COVID. It's accelerated with increases in taxes. It's not just out of New York. It's New Jersey, Connecticut, it's Chicago, it's California.
So they're fleeing high tax blue states.
Correct. Look,
None of this should come as a surprise. Over the past several years, a steady stream of high-profile individuals and major companies have packed up and left states like California and New York. And these moves aren't random or coincidental. They're calculated exits driven by growing frustration with Democratic leadership. Business owners cite punishing taxes, suffocating regulations, and an increasingly hostile environment for growth, while residents point to declining public safety, crumbling infrastructure, and a soaring cost of living with little to show for it. Many didn't want to leave. These were their home states, places they loved and helped build. But they feel their cities and states are being hollowed out by political decisions that prioritize ideology over practicality. When opportunity, safety, and affordability disappear, loyalty only goes so far. This exodus is a warning sign, not a talking point, and ignoring it only accelerates the decline.
Luckiest guy in the world that Mamdani got elected because his district is going to explode. My house, I live 8 miles outside of Queens, has gone up 20% in value since Mamdani announced. Okay?
Because
people aren't going to pay the punishing taxes. New York is the highest tax state in the union.
But you said your house value's gone up.
Yeah, because they're moving to Nassau County.
Oh, they're moving out of the city.
Out of the city, and they can still take the train back in the city and not pay the millionaire's tax or whatever crazy thing this guy wants. But what people don't understand is he can't raise the taxes unless the state...
New York's political trajectory is already sending shockwaves through the city. And with Zoran Mamdani emerging as a leading figure in the mayoral race, many residents and business owners are preparing to leave. The concern isn't abstract, it's financial. Mamdani's push for a so-called millionaire's tax has alarmed high earners and investors who feel they're being targeted yet again, despite already carrying a heavy tax burden. To them, the proposal feels punitive rather than productive, less about fairness and more about discouraging success and stifling growth. Critics argue that instead of addressing crime, housing shortages, or failing basic services, leadership is opting for easy political wins by squeezing an already shrinking tax base. The fear is straightforward. Higher taxes will drive away capital, talent, and jobs, leaving the city weaker, poorer, and more dependent. For many, leaving now isn't political, it's self-preservation.